Hey, folks, welcome to Phantoms and Monsters Radio. Texas has always had its own strange geography. Open ranch land, brush country, border roads, old lakefront communities, military corridors, isolated mobile home parks, long stretches of highway where witnesses can go miles without seeing another person. But the accounts in this episode are not just campfire stories. They come from people who describe events that had disturbed them for years. A gas plant worker photographs a strange humanoid figure during a night of UFO reports. A rancher in Zapata County fires on a small predator-like creature with yellow amber eyes. A family in El Paso reports owls transforming into women. A lake community near Abilene may be home to a giant unidentified serpent. A Texas driver experiences an entire alternate life in the instant after a lightning strike. A child in Mission sees a huge invisible humanoid outside his home, then later recalls beings inside his room. And in Marshall, old stories still speak of a man-wolf that was said to kill livestock and possibly people. This is not one-of-a-kind phenomenon. This is Texas high strangeness spread across decades, with each report standing on its own, but together forming a darker map of unexplained encounters across the state. Tonight, this is Unexplained Texas. Now, the first case. This first case is among the most unsettling in this episode because it includes a photograph, a later witness identification, and an older military area account that seems to echo the same pattern. In November 2012, a night shift worker named Daryl was part of an X-ray crew on a material gas plant near Kennedy, Texas. It was about 3 a.m. Only 4 people were present. As Daryl descended in the basket of the man lift, He saw something moving within the industrial structure. It swayed side to side. He quickly took a photograph. By the time he unhooked his harness and got out, the figure was gone. Another worker reportedly saw the same figure and ran for the truck. Police were called. According to Darrell, the officer told him there had been 26 UFO sighting calls that same night. The image was reportedly later published in the local Kennedy newspaper. Now, the figure in the photograph appears small, dark, upright, and humanoid. Now, in the full image, it's easy to miss. Enlarged, it appears narrow, isolated, and oddly proportioned. At first, the photograph stood alone. But then a woman near Beeville, about 20 miles away, contacted me with a deeply disturbing account. She lived alone. One evening around 9:30 p.m., she heard a swishing sound outside her home. She stepped onto the porch and saw a wide, dish-shaped craft hovering above the house. She estimated it was at least 100 feet across. A beam of light struck her. She was lifted from the porch step and suspended in midair for nearly 20 seconds. Then she was lowered near a tool barn. When she became aware again, she felt groggy and disoriented. But then she saw the figure. A blue beam extended downward from beneath the craft. Something moved out of it. The being was about 5 foot tall and humanoid, but its head and extremities appeared burned, blackened, or charred. It smelled putrid. As it moved towards her, she became nauseated and began to retch. The being then backed away and vanished into the blue beam. The craft ascended rapidly, creating a vacuum effect that dropped her to her knees. When she got back inside, the time was 10:40 p.m. Nearly 1 hour had been missing. Later, when she found the Kennedy gas plant photograph online, she believed the figure in the image was the same kind of being that she had encountered. Then there was a third account connected to Beeville and Chase Naval Air Station in 1967. A witness named CD was a child living in Navy housing. He and two friends saw a silver egg-shaped craft moving low along the road, followed closely by a Navy helicopter. A Phantom jet then roared over a treetop level. The object climbed and accelerated, and a second jet approached. The boys turned back to investigate after one of them said the object had dropped down on the other side of the road. That's where CD's memory breaks. He recalled something floating or looping toward them. The next clear memory was he was standing on a curb much later with a shore patrol truck stopping nearby. The boys had lost about 3 hours. They were questioned. CD was told to forget it. Taken together, these cases form a troubling South Texas pattern. Aerial objects, military or official response, missing time, humanoid figures, intense fear, and long-term witness unease. None of the accounts proves the other, but the overlap is hard to ignore. Now, the next case, that South Texas cluster brings us into the next case, which is from the same broader region. This time, there's no craft, no missing time, no military presence. Only a rancher, a dark pasture, and something small, vicious, and predatory moving through the mesquite. Now, this next account comes from a man working on his family's ranch in Zapata County, Texas. He had spent the day on the property and decided to camp in a back pasture. His plan was simple: cook fajitas, have a few beers, and maybe later watch for hogs or coyotes. After dark, he heard rustling in the brush. At first, he thought it might be a hog. Then he noticed the branches of a small mesquite tree moving strangely about 20 yards away. He switched on his headlamp. Standing there was a small creature, about 3 foot tall at the shoulder. It held a tree branch in its left hand. It growled, screeched, pulled back its lips, and showed extremely white teeth. The witness described the eyes as yellow amber, predatory, and unlike anything he had seen in a lifetime of hunting. Its body appeared gray-blue, almost as if it coated in mud. He drew his Glock and fired 3 rounds. He believes he hit it because he recognized the sound of a bullet striking an animal. The creature turned and ran into the dark, still growling and screeching. The witness locked himself inside his truck, turned off the lights, and watched for more movement. He called his mother in a panic and sat in the truck for about an hour before calming down enough to put out the fire and leave. The ranch had been in his family for more than 150 years. Older relatives had told stories about strange things on the land, but he had dismissed them. But after that night, he no longer dismissed them. Now, the Zapata County case has the real feel of a physical animal encounter, but the next account moves into the realm of folklore. It involves El Paso, a family, repeated nighttime sightings, and one of the oldest symbolic animals in paranormal tradition, an owl. Now, in 2007, a witness moved to the Lower Valley area of El Paso. He was 16 at the time and often walked around the apartment complex at night to clear his head. Now, during those walks, he saw some strange things. A girl in white, flashes of what appeared to be a man hanging from a tree, shadows, odd lights, and other activity. But the most disturbing events involved owls. One night, after walking a friend home, he returned and lay on the couch. There was a light outside the window and the curtains were closed, so silhouettes would show when someone passed by. He heard heavy wing flapping outside. Then he saw a huge bird fly past the window and transform into a woman. He stood there as if she knew he could see her. Then she walked away, and he heard her footsteps fading into the empty stairwell. 3 days before the family moved, he saw an owl perched in the tree outside the window. The night before they left, he saw an owl transform into a dark-skinned woman. This time, she sprinted away, as if terrified or fleeing from something. Months later, his mother called the family together and revealed that she and his brother had seen the same thing at different times. His brother had seen an owl turn into a woman and run into a field. His mother had experienced similar sightings while coming home from late-night shifts. For the witness, that conversation confirmed he had not imagined it. Now, owl transformation accounts are difficult to classify. They cross into folklore, screen memory, shapeshifter traditions, and possibly something much stranger. But our next case moves back into the physical world, or at least appears to be. This one involves a lake near Abilene, Texas, and a snake that shouldn't exist. Now, a witness from Abilene reported a long-running series of encounters at Little Lake. His family moved into a house on the lake in the early 1990s. Now, during the first year, he and his father and his father's business partner took a pontoon boat to a rocky point on an undeveloped lot to fish. Now, while at the back of the boat, the witness heard his father's business partner react in terror. The man was afraid of snakes and had stumbled backward after seeing something in the brush. The witness turned and saw a huge serpentine body sliding into the water. He watched its football-sized head pass near the back of their 20-foot boat. When he looked back toward the shore, the tail was still sliding into the water. He estimated the snake at least 20 feet long. The animal was black with a band new. But he's articulated python or anaconda. Now, over the of encounters with the animal. Years later, after his father passed away, a new neighbor asked ever seen a snake in the lake. The neighbor had
I think Lon's just lagged out briefly. He'll be back momentarily, I should imagine. Please just hold fire.
in that life, he and his wife had 2 sons and a daughter. The sons were adults. There were grandchildren. His daughter was a senior in high school. He was in his late 60s and carried the memories of a full life. Then, one night in that other life, he went to sleep beside his wife. Instead of waking there, he was suddenly back in the car, seeing the last of a lightning flash leaving his vision. He nearly wrecked from the shock. His fiancée thought the lightning had simply startled him. He didn't tell her what had happened at first because he needed time to process the grief of losing an entire family and life that he had experienced. A second event happened later while he was sleeping in a truck as the co-driver handled the road. He dreamed or experienced an alternate future where he came home and was greeted by his children, including twin girls named Callie and Allie. And when he woke, he called his wife in tears. She was stunned when he mentioned the name Allie. He had never known that their youngest daughter had originally been a twin. His wife had miscarried one of the twins and later named the unborn child Allison or Allie. For the witness, this was not a dream. It carried emotional weight, personal confirmation, and the lasting grief of people he felt he had known and that had lost. Now, that case deals with altered time and alternate reality. The next account also involves memory disruption, but in a more classic, close encounter setting. It comes from Mission, Texas, and begins with a child looking out a bedroom window before sunrise. So around 1974, a witness was about 7 years old and lived with his family in a mobile home park in Mission, Texas. The park was large and mostly empty, surrounded by orange groves. One morning before sunrise, he woke to a noise outside his bedroom window. Thinking it might be coyotes, he stood on his bed and looked out. Beside his mother's car stood the outline of a large humanoid figure. It appeared several feet taller than the car, perhaps 6.5 to 7 feet tall. It was bulky, with wide shoulders and thick legs. The inside of the outline was very dark, as if light could not escape it, but the edges were visible. The figure turned toward him. The child knew it could see him. Then it slowly turned and walked into the darkness. He ran to his mother, but she dismissed it as a bad dream. Several days later, a local newspaper reportedly carried a brief article about a woman who had seen the same type of figure and reported it to police. The mother read the article and questioned him again. Then she told him not to tell anyone. Later, the witness began to recall more. Before waking and looking out the window, he remembered lying in bed, unable to move. A being was shining a light in his eyes and communicating telepathically, telling him that they would be gone shortly. He felt as if he were wrapped in thick jello. Another being was in the room, looking through his dresser doors with a flashlight-like device. Strangely, the greenish light appeared to come out of the drawers rather than shine into them. He began to panic, then suddenly became calm. The being communicated that he would not remember and that everything would be okay. Now, the next thing he remembered was standing on his bed and looking out the window. Now, this account has elements of an invisible entity sighting, a close encounter, bedroom paralysis, telepathic communication, missing memory, and the physical intrusion. It is one of the most disturbing cases in this Texas set because the witness was a child and because another reported sighting in a local newspaper seemed to validate what he had seen. Now, from Mission, we move east to one of the state's older and darker pieces of local monster lore. Now, this is not a modern UFO style account. It is a story passed through the family memory, tied to livestock killings, violent mutilation, and the old roads around Marshall, Texas. The legend of the man-wolf of Marshall has persisted for generations. One account comes through a family story. The witness's great-great-grandmother, Granny Lee from Homer, Louisiana, claims she had seen the beast herself as it attacked a neighbor's pig. She swore it was neither man nor known animal. Descriptions vary, but the core image remains consistent. Over 6 feet tall when standing, large yellow-orange eyes, large sharp white teeth, a blunt, elongated snout, and a face that appears nearly full human or fully wolf. Some stories place the creature along Stagecoach Road, one of Marshall's haunted hotspots. Others place it near Dead Woman's Road, now known as Sedbury Street. The old stories say the beast killed livestock with brutal efficiency, including sheep, cows, pigs, and chickens. The darkest portion of the legend concerns a widow named Ethel Briggs. Now, according to the story, her husband went out one night to kill what he believed was a large coyote or mountain lion after something had been slaughtering his animals. But he never returned. The remains allegedly found the next morning were horrific. The story claims that pieces of his body were scattered around the property. The following night, his youngest son was reportedly taken. The boy's remains were found miles away. Ethel claimed she saw the beast. She said it was not a man and not simply a diseased dog. It was very large, walked like a man with a strange limp, and then ran on all fours. Whether this is literal history, embellished folklore, or a regional memory built around predator attacks and fear, The man wolf of Marshall remains one of Texas' darker werewolf or dogman style traditions. Now, this final section brings us back to South Texas and may be the strangest cluster in the entire episode. Hebronville appears again and again in reports involving dinosaur like animals, reptilian creatures, shrill cries in the brush, missing pets, and tall greenish beings peering into windows. This is where the episode closes because Hebronville does not give us one mystery, it gives us several. Now, the Hebronville area of South Texas has produced a strange mix of reports over the years. And I do have a picture of one of the creatures that was captured by one of the witnesses. Some involve small dinosaur-like creatures seen crossing roads or moving near brush lines. Others describe tall, thin, gray-green beings looking into the windows at night. The first widely discussed account involved a man who claimed he saw what looked like a small Tyrannosaurus Rex near Hebronville. He said it was about 4 meters tall and moving through the dust along the Hebronville Wilderness Trail. A photograph was reportedly submitted anonymously to the local newspaper editor, though the image remains debated. In 2013, another report came in. A woman in Hebronville allegedly saw a small dinosaur-like creature cross the main street in front of her car around 8:45 p.m. It passed through the headlights of an oncoming vehicle. Not long before that, another woman had awakened around 1 or 2 a.m. to hear a strange screech and heavy footfalls outside her apartment window. Near Falfurrias, about 18 miles east of Hebronville, witnesses reportedly seeing 2 small bipedal creatures in December 2012. They were dark brown, about 2 to 3 foot tall, with large heads and long tails. Afterward, the witnesses heard short, shrill cries from the brush for several nights. Quail feathers and deer bones were later found near a tree. A neighbor's dog disappeared. Another Hebronville account involved tall, thin, gray-green beings. A woman identified as M said her 10-year-old son saw one peering through the living room window while she was away doing laundry. He later said several of them were walking around outside and looking into people's windows. The following night, M's friends had her own experience. She heard the back door handle turned, then saw the lock moving. The door began to open. She panicked and then blacked out. Later, she remembered 3 beings inside the house. They were tall, thin, slimy looking, and dark green, like an avocado. She recalled lying on the couch, groggy as they moved around the home. The son and the friend had independently described similar beings. Hebronville's reports do not fit into one category. Some sound like unknown animal sightings, some sound like chupacabra or reptilian-style encounters. Others fall into classic close encounter territory. But the repeated location matters. The same general region produces reports of bipedal creatures, heavy footfalls, shrill cries, animal remains, missing pets, greenish beings, window peering intrusions, and altered consciousness. That does not prove a single explanation, but it does suggest a location worth watching. Hebronville, Falfurrias, Beeville, Kennedy, Zapata County, and Mission all sit within the larger South Texas field of strange reports. And that may be the real story here. Not one monster, not one UFO, not one ghost, but a regional corridor, a recurring anomaly. Now, Texas is too large, too old, and too layered to be reduced to a single explanation. Some of these accounts may involve unknown animals, some may be folklore surviving in family memory. Some may also involve misidentification, fear, or altered perception. But others carry details that are not so easy to dismiss: missing time, multiple witnesses, repeated descriptions, strange lights, official response, and long term psychological impact. The South Texas cases in particular deserve attention. Kennedy, Beeville, Chase Naval Air Station, Zapata County, Mission, Hebbronville. Different witnesses, different years, different phenomena. But the same uneasy pattern keeps surfacing along the margins: rural roads, dark windows, brush lines, ranch land, and isolated homes. There is where many unexplained encounters happen, not in front of crowds, not in clean daylight, but at the edge of ordinary life where witnesses were alone, vulnerable, and left to wonder whether what they saw was an animal, an entity, a visitor, or something that does not fit any known category. Now, if you've had an unexplained encounter in Texas or anywhere else, contact me at Phantoms and Monsters. Your report may help identify a pattern that has been hiding in plain sight for years. And as always, thank you for listening. Now we're going to take some questions, all caps, please. I think I've been told that we were cutting out. I don't know if it was because of the photos or what coming in. If it was, I'm going to try to identify where the missing parts were at, and I'll go ahead and take those accounts I was talking about where it went out and post them on the blog probably tomorrow. So if there's something that you missed that you want to find out more about, or you even have a question about it, let me know and I'll see if I can answer. But I'll try to put it on the I'll try to put it in the blog tomorrow. Okay. Kevin said it wasn't a leg from the photos, so we'll try to figure out where it happened at. So first question, Paranormalism Net. Are hooded robed beings generally small, around 3 to 4 foot tall? They come in all different sizes. I've had very tall beings up to 10, 12 foot long. I mean, high, even small ones that were almost maybe fairy or troll like. They call them in all shapes and sizes. Oh, let's see. I think Dagnammit has a question. Have you heard of the Lake Worth Monster in Texas? Yep. Near Fort Worth, which is outside of Dallas or in the Dallas area. Some of the descriptions over the past years, and people actually still see something in the area. It's supposed to be a white goat man type creature. I've seen photographs which are very fuzzy, doesn't have much definition at all to it, but it's still a mystery. Now, you can find accounts dealing with that creature, that cryptid, in a lot of different places. I think the story is fairly consistent, but I don't think people really know what it was. Cans Quatch. Heard anything about hyena sightings in Texas? Yeah. We've had a few. That South Texas area has had hyena sightings reported. That goes from south of San Antonio down to Brownsville and Laredo and west over, I guess, toward, I don't know what town it was, but it was along the river. So it's a fairly large area. I mean, you take a triangle and start it at San Antonio and go down to Rio Grande before you go into into Mexico. And there have been a lot of sightings. But the overall Hebronville area and the small towns around it have had a lot of different sightings. Some minor, some like I mentioned, but it continues on. But I'll probably come up with a second Texas episode later on. There are a lot of weird things that have surfaced over the years, and we'll try to put a second one up at some point. Anything else, folks? I know there's something here about asking Josh Turner or Lyle Blackburn about dinosaurs in Texas. I haven't talked to either one of them about that. I haven't talked to Josh in years, and same with Lyle. I did talk to Lyle maybe a year or so ago. Ken Gerhardt and I have talked about it many times. Can Squatch, any truth to the Bigfoot killing, torn up campsite cover up in the big thicket? Yeah, I think that was you talking about the one near Houston? Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I don't buy it. I haven't seen enough evidence to convince me about it. Plus, the guy who reportedly saw it was a hoaxer, well-known hoaxer. So, yeah, I don't give that much credence. Anything else, folks? Is there anything that in the stories I kicked out? Is there anything further from those that you want to ask me about? Maybe I can give you a little more detail. Okay, well, anyway, I want to thank you all for coming in tonight. I've been busy. I mean, it's really gotten busy. I'm working on several projects right now, and involving a possible TV series and pilot for Phantoms and Monsters, which I've talked about before. But we're also working on a theatrical release at some point, which I can't talk about yet. But if you go to my IMDb profile, you can see some of the artwork for this new film. Also, I signed on to a local documentary that's going to involve some of the sightings around here and my encounters. Of course, the Bigfoot down in Sykesville, Maryland, and the winged humanoid up in Camp Conawago. So we're going to get involved with that. It's going to be possibly a part of a bigger documentary. But if and when that comes out, I will let you all know about it. So anyway, again, I want to thank you for all coming in. And until next time, just stay aware, trust your instincts. And, remember, sometimes the strangest places are not far away, and sometimes they're just beyond the porch light. So have a nice evening. Have a great weekend. See you next Friday. Good night.